Chapter 1. A Mysterious Calling. In the ancient kingdom of Israel, nestled among rolling hills and fortified walls, a young prince felt a powerful destiny stirring within his soul. His name was Solomon, child of the revered King David and Bathsheba. Though raised in marble-floored corridors and clothed in garments fit for royalty, Solomon soon discovered that neither splendor nor privilege could shelter him from fate's weighty demands. Servants whispered of a prophecy that he would usher in a golden age for Israel, fulfilling his father's dream of building a majestic temple to honor the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yet the palace halls couldn't contain the larger forces at work. Beyond the gentle strumming of the royal harpists and the murmured devotions of court priests, an unseen realm stirred, one that recognized the stirring potential in this child before even he could. In the silence between each heartbeat, the cosmos itself seemed to listen.
I was but a child when I realized my life would never be ordinary. Father would often speak of our family's covenant with the Almighty and of the unshakable promise that I, Solomon, would construct a house where the presence of God would dwell among his people. To most, that would be honor enough, but there was more, so much more, that none of us foresaw. Night after night, I was beset by vivid dreams. In these visions, I beheld towering pillars of light crowned by symbols I couldn't decipher. At times, it felt as if invisible hands guided me through halls of timeless knowledge. Other times, a sense of looming dread pulled at my spirit, as though darker eyes were observing me from beyond a veil. Even as I woke, the echoes of those dream voices lingered, a haunting chorus that neither daylight nor my childhood innocence could dispel. I dared not speak of this to anyone. How could I explain that the realm of my dreams seemed more real, more tangible, than the palace I wandered each day? There, in the quiet hours before dawn, I sensed an otherworldly presence calling to me. Whether friend or foe, I could not say. In the shadows of my chamber, I stared at the moonlit walls and questioned whether I was chosen or targeted. I had no idea a single dream could open my eyes to realms beyond human understanding, realms filled with spirits I never imagined were real. But that dream was only the beginning. Something within me and in the world around me was shifting. My destiny was awakening in ways no one could predict.
Chapter 2. The Dream That Changed Everything. According to the scriptures, King Solomon once dreamed that God himself offered him anything he desired. Rather than riches or vengeance on his enemies, Solomon asked for wisdom, a request so unexpected and humble that it altered the course of his life, and perhaps all of Israel's history. Legend claims that on that fateful night, the young king felt the heavens part above him. A voice filled with both gentleness and immense authority echoed in his soul, bestowing a divine brilliance unlike anything mortal eyes had ever seen. Yet where there is light, there are also shadows, those silent forces older than any throne, drawn to power like moths to an unseen flame.
They say I could have asked for gold beyond measure or the defeat of my foes. But there, in the stillness of my dream, I whispered only for a discerning heart. I did not fully understand the enormity of such a wish, only that I longed to lead my people with justice and compassion. Waking to the first rays of dawn, I felt a change in my very bones, a clarity of thought, as though my mind had been washed clean by a celestial tide. In the early days after my dream, I sat upon the throne to settle disputes brought by merchants, farmers, and nobles alike. And to my own surprise, I saw pathways to resolution I could never have imagined before. It was as if the tangled threads of human conflict revealed their hidden patterns, allowing me to weave harmony where chaos threatened. Whispers soon spread. Solomon possessed a new, uncanny ability to perceive the truth behind words unspoken. But my gift was no secret in the spiritual realms. I sensed watchful eyes in places I had never noticed before, strange flickers in the corner of my vision, the echo of distant voices when I was alone. My heart would sometimes race at the thought that beings beyond this world were turning their gaze upon me, intrigued by the power placed in my hands. I wondered if angels attended me unseen, or if darker entities lurked, hoping to twist my newfound wisdom for their own ends. When I knelt at my bedside each night, I prayed not for grandeur or conquest, but for guidance to wield this insight without succumbing to pride. Still, a restless energy coursed through my thoughts. I began to dream of a vast library filled with glowing scrolls and tomes, knowledge beyond mortal comprehension. In these visions, a single word or symbol could unravel riddles of governance and justice, but also hint at arcane truths I barely understood. Though I walked through the palace in regal splendor, much of my mind wandered in these illuminated halls of possibility. It felt like standing at the threshold of a grand doorway, uncertain of what lay on the other side. More and more, I sensed an invisible tension in the air, as though the very fabric of reality had begun to shift. They call me Solomon the Wise, yet each day reminds me how little I truly know. My wisdom is a precious gift, yes, but it also carries a quiet warning. Whoever steps onto the path of deeper mysteries must be willing to face what lurks in the hidden corners of light and shadow alike. And so I press forward, torn between the desire to use my gift for the good of my people and the nagging suspicion that I've only begun to glimpse the vast unseen tapestry in which I now play a part. Little did I know, my dream of wisdom would lead me to an even greater secret, a key to command the world of spirits.
Chapter 3. Coronation and the Burden of Wisdom. Solomon's coronation was unlike any other. Crowds gathered from every corner of the land, nobles, priests, merchants, and common folk alike. Trumpets announced the dawn of a new era, and the fragrance of rare spices filled the air. Amid the music and pageantry, all Israel rejoiced, believing they had found the king who would bring their nation into an age of unshakable prosperity. Yet, beneath the lavish festivities and regal fanfare, a young ruler felt the true weight of the crown rest upon his brow, its invisible burden heavier than any jewel-encrusted gold.
They called me Solomon the Wise before the oil of anointing had even dried on my forehead. The day of my coronation was a blur of colors and voices, cheering citizens, emissaries bearing precious gifts, and royal dignitaries bowing low. I was honored, yes, but also inwardly overwhelmed. For all the adoration, there was an unspoken expectation hanging in the air. If I was truly chosen and endowed with divine insight, then my every decision would shape the fate of our people. No sooner had I settled on the throne than travelers from distant realms began to arrive with their riddles and disputes. Each sought proof of my celebrated wisdom, some with genuine respect, others to test whether my reputation was merely myth. With each visitor, I could feel a growing pressure in my heart, as though the entire world watched for a misstep. They saw a monarch, but deep inside, I questioned whether I was more than just a king. I caught whispers in the corridors, hints of awe and, occasionally, fear. Some claimed I held the keys to mysterious realms, bridging the gap between heaven and earth. Yet, at night, when the crowds dispersed and the palace lamps burned low, I would kneel alone in my chamber. It was there, in the hush of solitude, that the real gravity of my gift pressed hardest upon me. I remembered the dream that sparked it all, the divine voice granting me wisdom beyond human measure. But wisdom, I was learning, came hand in hand with deeper perception. My mind flickered with images of hidden worlds, angels and shadows stirring just beyond human sight. As much as I wanted to focus on the affairs of state, treaties, trade routes, and courtly protocols, I could not shake the feeling that my destiny reached further than worldly rule. Sometimes I questioned whether anyone else could sense the intangible currents swirling around us. I would scan the eyes of those who approached my throne, looking for signs that they too perceived something vast and unseen. For now, it seemed I walked that path alone, charged with leading a nation, while a silent chorus of ethereal watchers observed from afar. My reign was only beginning, but I could not escape the nagging feeling that I would soon confront powers far beyond political alliances or mundane rulership.
Chapter 4. The Temple's Foundation. True to prophecy, King Solomon set out to build a temple dedicated to his God, an edifice unlike anything the world had seen. Its grandeur would inspire generations, drawing nations near and far to marvel at its towering columns and gilded chambers. Laborers toiled under the scorching sun, shaping stone and cedar, driven by the promise of a holy place where heaven might touch the earth. Yet, as the walls rose, so too did the unseen tensions lurking in Solomon's expanding realm.
Stone by stone, we raised the walls, calling upon skilled craftsmen from Tyre and beyond. They brought the finest cedar from Lebanon and gold filigree to adorn the sacred inner rooms. The temple was meant to be God's dwelling place on earth, a sanctuary for my people to worship and find solace. But as the structure grew, I sensed other forces gathering alongside our efforts, drawn by the sacred ground we fashioned. In the hush of dawn, when the hammers paused and the workers rested, I could feel a stirring in the very air. It was as if ancient eyes watched from the shadows, waiting to see what mortal hands would create in the name of the Almighty. My nights grew restless. I envisioned swirling shapes and distant voices, echoes of an older realm that recognized the significance of this monumental task. Perhaps my people believed we were simply building a house for God, but my heart told me we were also blazing a beacon that would draw both light and darkness to its flame. The day we laid the final foundation stone, a sudden darkness flickered at the edge of my vision, an omen that the spiritual realm was watching and waiting.
Chapter 5. A Ring from the Divine. Throughout history, rumors have persisted of an artifact known as the Seal of Solomon, a ring said to grant its bearer command over spirits and demons. In esoteric manuscripts, one finds cryptic references to a symbol so potent it could bend the very fabric of the unseen realms. Tales abound of how this seal might have been etched by celestial hands, or perhaps born from arcane rituals lost to time. Scholars continue to argue over its origins. Some see it as a myth created to magnify Solomon's legend, while others believe fragments of truth lie within ancient tablets waiting to be deciphered. Yet the legend endures, whispered by desert nomads and inscribed in the margins of forbidden tomes. In lonely monasteries and royal archives alike, one name stands out: Solomon, the wise king whose ring supposedly bridged heaven and earth. The notion that such an artifact could bestow control over entities beyond mortal comprehension has kept the story alive through centuries of retelling. Whether the ring was birthed by divine decree or stained with more sinister power, it casts a long shadow across the annals of kings and mystics alike. Some say it was the key to Solomon's rise, others his greatest temptation.
I won't deny it. The stories about my ring, etched with symbols that defy easy understanding, are true. It came to me in what I believed was a dream, though who can say if such visions are not their own reality? I saw a figure robed in light brighter than the sun, holding out a small object that blazed like a living ember. When I reached out, I felt an overwhelming reverence, as if I were touching something forged by hands far above mortal craft. At first, I thought it could only be a gift from the Most High, an outward sign of my divine calling. Yet even from the beginning, a sliver of unease took root in my heart. As I turned the ring in my palm by dawn's first glow, the engravings seemed to shift under my gaze, revealing patterns I couldn't fully decipher. Some lines felt comforting, reminiscent of sacred texts, while others hinted at older, darker languages I had never seen. When I finally slipped it onto my finger, a rush of warmth and electric vitality coursed through my veins, a sensation at once exhilarating and deeply unsettling. In that moment, I understood that power and peril often come hand in hand. Each day I wore the ring, my mind sharpened in ways I couldn't explain. I perceived truths behind people's words, and sometimes I caught glimmers of figures moving at the edge of my sight. The boundary between the physical world and whatever lay beyond it seemed to thin, as though the ring's presence illuminated hidden doorways. Late at night, alone with my thoughts, I wondered if I was truly chosen to wield this artifact, or if its arrival was a test to prove whether I could resist corruption. Could any man remain pure while carrying something that hinted at absolute authority over spirits? Still, the ring's power called to me like a siren's song. I felt its pull whenever I mediated disputes in the royal court, as though unseen forces hovered, awaiting my command. At times, I sensed a silent chorus of whispers, some sounding like angels, others too twisted to be anything but darker entities. My heart quaked at the responsibility, but I couldn't deny the thrill that accompanied it. To hold such power was to walk a razor's edge between divine purpose and unfathomable danger. Even so, I carried on, praying that my intentions would remain aligned with the God I served. After all, I was Solomon, the king blessed with wisdom, charged with uniting my people under the banner of justice and faith. Perhaps this ring was part of that grand design, a tool meant to safeguard Israel from malevolent forces lurking in the shadows. Or perhaps it was the first step onto a path where temptation and enlightenment might be impossible to distinguish. Only time, and the choices I made, would reveal whether the ring was a gift of grace or the seed of my undoing. Once I slipped that ring onto my finger, I could never go back to being a mere king. Power radiated from me like fire, calling out to beings that lurked unseen.
Chapter 6. Commanding the Demonic Legion. Legends claim that with this seal of Solomon, the king did the unthinkable. He bound demons to his service, compelling them to labor on the sacred temple's construction. Some ancient texts insist this alliance was sanctioned by God, allowing Solomon to harness malevolent forces for a holy purpose. Others condemn the act, suggesting it was a reckless foray into unholy dominion. However one interprets the story, its core remains unsettling. Solomon, ruler of Israel, stood at the crossroads where earthly ambition and spiritual authority collided, commanding beings older than any mortal empire.
Voices began whispering in my dreams, offering names and incantations so ancient they seemed to predate language itself. At first, I recoiled, trying to cleanse my mind with prayer, hoping to drive out these insidious murmurs. But a question gnawed at me. What if these forces, dark as they were, could be bent to serve a righteous cause? Could they strengthen our labor, accelerate our plans for the temple, or help maintain peace in the kingdom? One night, I gathered my resolve, and the ring, determined to confront the shadows. I chanted the names revealed to me, feeling my very blood hum with forbidden power. Shapes flickered in torchlight, half-formed figures moving in the corners of my vision. A chorus of rasping voices echoed in the chamber, each spirit vying for acknowledgement. With the ring's authority, I compelled them to obey. The experience was unlike anything I had known, exhilarating terror, as though lightning coursed through my veins. Soon, stories spread of otherworldly creatures hauling massive stones by night, carving intricate designs with unearthly precision. My subjects marveled at the temple's swift progress, hailing it a miracle. But a whisper of dread hissed through my thoughts. Was I truly controlling these forces, or did they subtly guide me toward a darker path? The line between mastery and enslavement grew perilously thin, and an unspoken tension lay coiled beneath every command I uttered. To witness a legion of spirits obey my every order was exhilarating. Yet in the shadows, I sensed a threat. Was I the master, or was I their pawn?
Chapter 7. A kingdom of unimaginable wealth. With reputed supernatural forces at his command, King Solomon transformed Jerusalem into a beacon of unprecedented splendor. Merchant caravans braved punishing desert heat to bring him the finest goods, alabaster jars of incense, vibrant textiles woven with exotic dyes, gems prized by distant kingdoms. Even visiting monarchs were said to leave awestruck, amazed at the city's sheer abundance and the scale of Solomon's influence. Yet behind the lavish banquets and glittering treasury, whispers persisted that such prosperity came at an incalculable price. Some spoke of hidden covenants with powers unseen, forging a reign both magnificent and perilous.
Tribute poured into my kingdom from every horizon. I remember the thrill I felt each time a new caravan arrived, its wagons overflowing with treasures I had once only imagined. Furs from the far north, delicate glassware from distant coasts, and spices so fragrant they clung to the air like the sweetest perfume. My treasuries expanded beyond measure, and my architects, emboldened by limitless resources, built monuments that seemed to defy the boundaries of human craftsmanship. It was not mere vanity that drove me. At least, that is what I told myself. With every lavish gift, every new display of riches, I believed I was reinforcing the glory of Israel and upholding the honor of the Almighty. Surely, a kingdom so blessed would be a testament to divine favor. Yet there were nights when I roamed the halls of my palace, haunted by the knowledge of what I had invoked to safeguard our prosperity. Did those same forces, the ones I had once bent to my will, now exert their own subtle influence over me? My throne, carved from pristine ivory and overlaid with gold of unparalleled purity, drew the eye of every visitor who entered my court. Some knelt in reverence, others gaped in silent admiration. But when I sat upon that throne, gazing out at the counselors and foreign envoys gathered at my feet, I could not entirely suppress a stab of unease. Am I still guided by wisdom, or am I simply indulging in my own legend? My subjects saw only the splendor, endless storehouses of grain, commerce that thrived with minimal taxation, and roads that teemed with merchants eager to barter in the city's bustling markets. The people sang praises of my benevolence and the nation's prosperity, seldom suspecting the quiet undercurrent of dread that pulsed through my private thoughts. In truth, no amount of gold could shield me from the shadows I'd invited into my orbit. Even as I funded scholarships for scribes and provided for the poor, an insidious voice whispered in the back of my mind. Everything has its cost. Sometimes, while inspecting new shipments of rare gemstones, I would pause to hold a polished emerald to the light. In its depths, I caught my reflection, eyes hardened by ambition, yet troubled by flickers of guilt. Yes, the city's wealth soared to unimaginable heights, but so did my anxiety. At times, I felt an invisible presence lingering in the corners of my throne room, as though waiting for the perfect moment to collect its due. And so I continued, wearing my crown of gold, projecting an image of unwavering confidence. Yet, in the private chambers of my heart, I wrestled with a question whose weight seemed heavier than any treasure. Were my alliances of this world alone, or had I crossed boundaries that no mortal could safely navigate? Amid the perfumes and jewels, the feasts and festivities, the thought gnawed at me like a secret wound. For I had seen enough of the spirit realm to know that wealth, no matter how vast, might never be enough to atone for the forces I had unleashed. Even as my fame spread, a seed of doubt grew. Had my pursuit of knowledge and power doomed me to a fate worse than any mortal curse?
Chapter 8. Encounter with the Queen of Sheba. One of Solomon's most renowned visitors was the mysterious Queen of Sheba. Tales tell of her grand caravan laden with gold, spices, and precious stones, a display to rival the king's own wealth. Yet, her true mission stretched beyond mere diplomacy. Armed with riddles and keen insight, she came to test the limits of Solomon's fabled intellect, and perhaps to unearth secrets that lay just beneath his regal facade.
She swept into my court with undeniable presence, dressed in robes woven from brilliant threads, her every gesture poised and deliberate. From the moment she spoke, I sensed she was no ordinary monarch. The riddles she presented weren't just clever brain teasers. They probed at subtleties of human nature, faith, and power. As I answered each question, I watched her eyes, searching for any flicker of emotion beyond courteous intrigue. In truth, the Queen of Sheba's fascination seemed to extend past my supposed brilliance. Now and then, I caught a hint of apprehension in her gaze, an unspoken inquiry that suggested she'd heard rumors of my dealings in realms beyond mortal understanding. Could it be she knew of the hidden pacts, the dark forces I once commanded? Each time I solved one of her riddles, it felt like a delicate dance, part demonstration of intellect, part guarded revelation of my inner world. By day, we entertained each other with tales of governance and philosophy, exchanging gifts that dazzled onlookers with their splendor. By night, I wrestled with the knowledge that she was seeking something more. There was a tension in the air, palpable even in our most cordial moments. Her questions, though wrapped in polite language, often felt like keys searching for a lock within my soul. As she recounted stories of her kingdom's traditions, I wondered if she was offering me a glimpse of how the rest of the world viewed my rumored power, half awe, half dread. Beneath the glittering veneer of our official discourse, an unspoken bond formed, equal parts curiosity and caution. She recognized in me a man who had walked paths beyond earthly rule, and I glimpsed in her someone unafraid to lift the veil of royal niceties and peer into hidden depths. If not for our respective titles, I might have confessed my private fears, my growing suspicion that every step I took to secure my throne only drew me deeper into forces I couldn't fully control. In the Queen's parting glance, I caught a reflection of my own turmoil. She had glimpsed my secret, and I wondered if that knowledge would one day spell my downfall.
Chapter 9. The Pride Before the Fall. Over time, Solomon's vast harem, with wives and concubines from many nations, drew his heart toward foreign gods. The king, who once upheld divine laws, now found himself torn between the covenants he had cherished and temptations whispering of hidden power. As the line blurred between the holy and the profane, the tension between heavenly favor and demonic forces edged closer to catastrophe.
I once believed my wisdom set me above the failings of lesser men. What began as a simple curiosity, understanding the faiths of my foreign consorts, slowly turned into fascination and then obsession. My ring, the temple, the wealth. I told myself they were testaments to my own ingenuity, forgetting who had truly bestowed these gifts. Before I realized it, I was sacrificing not just offerings, but pieces of my soul on altars to gods I barely understood. Dark rituals, once unthinkable, became almost routine under the guise of cultural exchange. My nights were filled with incense smoke and the flicker of unholy flames, each ceremony chipping away at the foundations of my covenant with the Almighty. In the silence after each rite, I felt a faint echo, a distant rumble in the spiritual fabric, warning me of the path I tread. Yet pride and curiosity overshadowed my better judgment. Worse still, the ring's power grew unpredictable. Where once I had commanded spirits with assurance, now they seemed to watch me with mocking eyes. A creeping doubt gnawed at my heart. Had I opened too many doors, letting in forces I could no longer control? Every golden idol and foreign altar I built was a step away from the source of my true power. And despite the gnawing guilt, I pressed on, convinced I was beyond reproach. After all, wasn't I still King Solomon, blessed with wisdom surpassing all others? But when the final warning came, would I listen? Or would my pride bring everything tumbling down, including my pact with the spirits I once commanded?
Chapter 10. The Final Revelation. History records that King Solomon's reign lasted 40 years, a span marked by unmatched splendor and profound controversy. Temples rose, riches flowed, and his wisdom became the stuff of legend. Yet as life's twilight descended upon him, some say he witnessed a reckoning with the very powers he once commanded. Rumors persist. Did his dying breath carry words of repentance, or did unseen forces exact their due in his final hour?
I lay upon my bed, the strength draining from my limbs, and felt a strange clarity returning. The illusions that had clouded my vision, vaulting ambition, occult experiments, the idols I once revered, seemed to recede like a fever dream. My thoughts drifted back to that pivotal night so long ago when I asked God for a discerning heart. Why had I strayed so far from that single, humble request? True wisdom, I realized too late, wasn't about bending the will of men or demons, nor was it found in treasures or alliances sealed with forbidden rites. True wisdom meant bowing in humble reverence before the Almighty, acknowledging that every gift, every breath, emanates from a source infinitely greater than ourselves. I'd tasted unimaginable power, glimpsed realms beyond mortal comprehension, and yet I had squandered those blessings in my pursuit of grandeur. A haunting question lingered. Was my story destined to serve as a stern warning? Or could my final moments still illuminate a path toward redemption? In my wavering consciousness, I prayed for forgiveness, though I knew some bonds may have been forged too tightly to break in a single breath. Even so, I felt a fragile sense of peace, as if a divine hand gently reminded me of the choice I once made for wisdom, a reminder that it's never too late to turn one's heart back to the light. In the end, my story stands as a warning and an enigma. I am King Solomon, the man who reigned over men and demons alike. My tale lives on, echoing through the ages. Will you choose the path of humble wisdom, or be seduced by forbidden secrets?